Shalom, shalom. I'm going to start off this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Rakakwadash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of the great millstone that rule well and teach well while learning the truth, 100% according to the Bible. I also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, prophets, servants scattered abroad the four corners of the earth, and shalom to you few akwaf, which are you sisters out there that are sincere, your children, shalom. And in today's video, as you can see, is going to be a World War III news update, just, a video of basically the latest news you see involving the conflicts that are happening worldwide. And as you can see from this video that I got from this guy, it says NATO initiates Article 4, man. You see, so you ultimately see that things are definitely heating up, you see, around the world, you see. So with that being said, I'm going to get into this video. We're going to listen to what it is the guy's saying, as far as, the latest news of what's happening, and I'm going to grab a few precepts. And Lord's willing to be edifying, just quick update, quick hit. So with that being said, fair use. I'm not getting paid for this video. Fair use.
Developing news coming out today, September the 20th, 2025. As yesterday, we saw Russian jets enter Estonia's airspace. And now today, we're hearing that Article 4 has been initiated by NATO. And there are World War III warnings going out around the world, including by President Donald Trump. Now, let's take a look at the latest headlines coming out today, September the 20th, so we can get you caught up on the latest with the new developments. Let's take a look. NATO is going to be holding Article 4 talks after Russian jets have detected over Estonia. Estonia is now seeking NATO consultation after Russian jets violate airspace. And the question is, are we going to be seeing Article 5 initiated? If you think so, put 5. If you think we're going to be stopping at 4, put 4. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, take a look. Coming out today, September the 20th, Trump issues terrifying warning after Russian warplanes violate NATO airspace amid World War III fears. Now, Estonia is prepping for Putin's World War III as bunkers, trenches, and giant medieval castle is built. We're hearing that they are preparing for potential World War III here. Now, we've seen this already with Poland. We saw it with Romania. Now we're hearing it's happening with Estonia. There's concerns about Lithuania. All of these nations now, we're hearing, are preparing for conflict with Russia. Take a look. More articles. Russian jets over Estonia ignore.
Right. And we hear what it is that the guy is saying, but we know ultimately, according to prophecy, that, ultimately that's not going to happen, you see. Because we know that the beast, you see, shall hate the whore. You see, the EU and the NATO, they're going to turn their back against America, Babylon the Great. And they're going to end up joining sides with Russia, man. You see, that's when things really ultimately hit the intensity level that is ultimately going to get to when World War III does start. Because actually, we're already in World War III. It just hasn't hit the level that it's going to get to yet. And that's because ultimately we know that the MOTB hip hasn't hit the scene yet, you see, which is the main prophecy that we're ultimately waiting on for things to really, escalate, the situations that are happening. Right. So I'm actually go to this precept that I got. Because like I said, Lord Yahweh said these things will be happening, you see. This is St. Matthew chapter 24. I'm going to read verse 3, but the point is at 6. It says, and he sat upon the Mount of Olives. The disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming in the end of the world, right? The ending of this eon, right? The ending of Esau being in power, right? The so-called white man, his rulership. It says, verse 4, Yahweh answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. Verse 5, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am the anointed, and shall deceive many. Right? Verse 6, this is the point. And ye shall hear wars and rumors of wars. Right? So you got wars that are actively taking place, you see, and you got rumors of wars, which is what you hear these nations discussing, rumors of wars. Right? But it says, see that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, right? Letting us know that a World War III will happen, of course, because it's Bible prophecy. So it's going to happen, you see, but the end is not yet. And like I just said, that's because the MOTB hip has not came to pass, you see. So we're still waiting on certain prophecies to fall in place for ultimately the World War III to go to the point it's going to get to, because we know that World War III is going to be a nuclear war, man. You see, it's not going to be fought how the ancient battles were fought, man. This is a whole totally different warfare that's ultimately going to take place. That's why these prophecies ultimately are going to fall in line, you see, before that ultimately takes place. Because once World War III really hits the level that it's going to get to, it's going to be nuclear, man. You see, which is ultimately going to resort in the destruction of America, Babylon the Great, man. You see, and Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is going to resort in his kingdom. You see, his rulership being annihilated, being destroyed, man. Right, as it tells us right here, I'm gonna go to that precept real quick. This is Isaiah chapter 9, And I'm going to go to verse 5, right? It says, for every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. You see, so that's how the ancient battles were fought back in the ancient world. You see, they were fought with shields, swords, hand to hand, close quarter combat, people being up close against each other, fighting. You see, that's how the ancient battles were fought, you see. But as it says, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire, man. You see, that's ultimately what's going to happen in the Third World War. It's not going to be, men marching against each other fighting, even though we know that will happen as well, because the Lord is going to lead these nations down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. But still, this war that's coming is primarily going to be a nuclear war, you see, which is, like I said, going to resort in the destruction of America, Babylon the Great. And we know that America's allies, they're going to hate the whore, man. You see, so EU and the NATO and America, joining forces and, fighting against Russia, you see, hey, that's not coming, man. You see, because like I said, hey, the NATO and the EU are going to turn their back on America, man, and side with Russia and China and all of these other nations that are ultimately confederate and against America, man. You see, and that's prophecy. All right. And I'm going to pull that up. Revelations chapter 17, right? Bear with me. And I'm going to go to verse. Let me get straight to the point, right? I'm going to start at verse 16. It says, and the 10 horns, right, which thou sawest upon the beast, right, the EU and the NATO shall hate the whore, which is Babylon the Great America, and shall make her desolate and naked, right, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. How is that going to be done? Because ultimately, like I said, the EU and NATO going to turn their back on America. They're going to side with America's enemies, and they're going to shoot missiles at this place, man. That's what's going to happen in World War III. So we know ultimately there ain't going to be no alliance between the EU and NATO fighting against Russia, man. That ain't happening. You see? It may look like that's what's going to happen. And then, like I said, things are going to change, man, because, hey, it's the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. You see, these prophecies will not return unto the Lord void. Everything is going to happen according to the way the Lord have set them to play out in, you see. So like I said, even though it's looking like America and NATO, are together now, man, hey, all of that stuff is crumbling, man. You see, behind the scenes, hey, they're talking against America, man. You see. But I'm going to finish reading it, right? This is verse 17. For Yahweh Hashem Yahushua have put in their hearts, meaning their mind, to fulfill his will. What is the Lord's will? To destroy this place and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, unto the words of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua shall be fulfilled. So like I said, that's ultimately what's coming, man. You see, this is what's going to happen, So like I said, what we see ultimately happening now is none more than wars and rumors of wars, because at the end of the day, we know the prophecies. We know how everything plays out. We know that things are not going to happen in the way that these devils are saying it. You see, it's going to happen in the way that Yahweh Hashem Yahushua have set these things to take place in. That's how it's going to ultimately happen, So I'm going to get back into the video so we can just continue listening to what it is the God's saying, you see. But war is definitely coming. We are in that time of season, you see. As it tells us right here, I'm going to grab that precept real quick. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And I'm going to start at verse 1. And I'm going to read on down to verse 8, which is the point. It says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Verse 2. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. You see verse 3. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. Verse 4. A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, right? Verse 5, it says a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Verse 6, a time to get, right? A time to love, a time to keep, and a time to cast away. Verse 7, a time to rend and a time to sow and a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Verse 8, it says a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And that's ultimately the time of season we are in, man. The time of war. So guess what? War is definitely coming, man. That's what's on the horizon. That's what Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is bringing. And like I said, definitely and ultimately everything is leading up to the Third World War. Like I said, which will happen, man. But until the MOTBC hip hits the scene, it won't ultimately get to the level it's going to get to, you see. But it's coming, you see. And ultimately, World War III has already begun, man, It really has. It just, like I said, it hasn't reached that intensity level yet, right? Which is what it's going to get to very soon, all right? So we're going to get back into the video so we can just continue to allow the guy finish saying what he's saying about what's ultimately taking place,
signals from NATO's pilots. Officials say they said this was no mistake. Initially, we had heard that when those jets got into Polish airspace, that they said it was those drones, that it was a mistake. They're saying this was no mistake. They were in the airspace for over 12 minutes, ignoring the calls, just flying through, and now it's time for Article 4. And headlines like this: World War III is going to be starting before Christmas, as detector claims Putin to unleash gray zone invasion. We're going to get into the details. Coming out today, 7 hours ago, Poland is scrambling more jets as Russia launches a massive aerial assault on Ukraine. And there is also missile debris that has been found in Poland the week after Russia's mass airspace violations, officials say. And also Lithuania. How Lithuania power cut could spin out into World War III in hours. There is a lot coming out here. Let me know your thoughts.
All right. So like I said, we basically got a gist of everything in which it is the guy's saying in today's video. Like I said, this wasn't meant to be anything long, just a quick hit through the spirit of everything that is happening. But like I said, brothers and sisters, you know, things are happening, man. You see, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is definitely allowing things to move in place. You know, things are definitely happening behind the scenes. This is why it's important for us, hopeful, like brothers and sisters, you see, especially now in this time of season that we are in, to constantly be watching, man, to constantly be paying attention to, you know, the news and everything that is happening, because, hey, the Lord is definitely speeding things up, you see, and allowing things to ultimately to happen, you know. So I'm going to actually grab this precept that I got right here through the spirit. This is Revelations chapter 11, verse 14. It says the second woe is past, right? That's talking about World War II, because ultimately it have already taken place, you see, between 1939 to 1945. That has already occurred, right? And behold, the third woe cometh quickly, like I said, because, hey, the third world's war is going to take place, man. You see, ultimately, the Lord is going to lead all of these nations down there to the Middle East, to the Valley of Jehoshaphat, where they're all going to fight against each other, man. That's going to happen, right? Which it tells us about that in Revelations chapter 16, right? Let me grab that real quick. Bear with me, because the Lord is going to do these things, man. You see, and it's going to happen in our lifetime. You know, these things are fastly going to happen. You see, we just waiting on that MOTBC hit, right? This is Revelation chapter 16. I'm going to read verse 16. It said, and he gathered them together, right? That's the Lord gathering these militaries, these nations, right? Into a place called in the Hebrew tongue, Armageddon, which that goes into Armageddon, which means mountain of troops, which is going to be all of these nations getting dragged down there to the so-called Middle East, where they're all going to fight out against each other, man. You see? So like I said, this is where ultimately everything is going to lead up to, you see? So with that being said, Abarat Desire, pray this video be edifying, just something quick through the spirit. To the next time, I'm going to say shalom to the elect. Shalom. La Abakarian.